When she came home that evening, I noticed a strange calmness on her face, like someone who had already prepared their excuse before being asked anything. We sat down for dinner, and out of nowhere, she dropped the words that froze my whole body. "I was with my ex," she said casually, "but we were careful, so it doesn't count." My fork slipped from my hand, yet I didn't say a word. I just looked at her, pretending I hadn't heard what she had just admitted. The room fell silent. She expected me to argue, to shout, maybe even throw something, but instead I stayed quiet. My silence seemed to unnerve her more than any explosion of anger could. She kept eating, glancing at me now and then, as if testing whether I would finally break. But I didn't. Inside, though, my heart was tearing apart. That night, I lay beside her, listening to her breathe as if nothing had happened. My mind replayed her words over and over. We were careful, so it doesn't count. Was this how lightly she valued our marriage? Did loyalty mean nothing as long as precautions were taken? I clenched my fists under the blanket, but still I remained silent. The next morning, I acted normal. I made her tea, kissed her forehead before she left for work, and smiled as though everything was fine. But behind that smile I was planning. If she thought her betrayal could be erased with excuses, I would show her what silence could build: evidence, truth, and consequences. Over the following weeks, I started watching closely. She didn't know I had access to her cloud storage, her messages, her travel logs. Each piece of evidence painted the same story. It wasn't a one-time mistake. She had been meeting him often, convincing herself it didn't count. My silence became my greatest weapon, for it gave me time to see the whole picture. One evening, she laughed on the phone with him in the kitchen, not realizing I stood just outside the door. "He doesn't suspect a thing," she whispered. My chest tightened, but I stayed still, letting her words carve into me. That night, when she returned to bed, I held her hand. She smiled, unaware that I already knew everything. The more I stayed silent, the more careless she became. She stopped hiding things. She believed my calmness meant acceptance, but in truth, I was documenting everything. Photos, messages, receipts, all carefully saved. She thought her betrayal was invisible. She had no idea I was building the story she would never be able to deny. One Sunday, we went to visit her parents. They welcomed us warmly, praising how strong our marriage looked. I almost laughed at the irony. She squeezed my hand, performing her role as a loyal wife perfectly, and I let her, because soon masks would fall. Weeks later, I gathered her family, my family, and a few of our closest friends at our house. I told them I had something to share. She looked at me puzzled, as if it were a surprise announcement. Then I projected everything on the screen: her chats, her photos, her excuses. Silence filled the room. The same silence I had carried all this time. Her face turned pale, her lips trembling as she tried to explain. "It wasn't what it looks like," she stammered. "We were careful, so it didn't count." Her own words echoed back at her, sounding weaker and emptier in front of everyone. No one defended her. No one believed her. I looked at her one last time, the woman who once swore loyalty to me. "You thought silence meant forgiveness," I said, "but it meant I was watching. And now everyone sees the truth." She broke down, covering her face, but my heart felt nothing anymore. The days after were strangely calm. People called, some in shock, some in pity, but I didn't need sympathy. I had already grieved during those nights of silence. Now I was free from the weight of her betrayal. She moved out quietly. No arguments, no fights, just shame. I learned something powerful in those weeks. Sometimes silence is not weakness. Sometimes it is the sharpest blade, cutting deeper than anger ever could. She thought her betrayal didn't count, but in the end it counted more than anything, because it cost her everything and me my illusion. I finally understood that peace doesn't come from holding on to what's broken. It comes from walking away without a word.